Welcome to percent of a number. This is a review of concepts that you should have learned previously with regards to calculating percents. Don't forget, if you need to, pause to catch up. If you get behind or you need to listen to an explanation again, feel free to rewind. All right, so our first one is we're looking at 5% of a number of 240. So let's first start with just the basic number sentence. I'm going to write 5% as a decimal. And to do that, I'm going to write decimal point 0.05. That's 5/100ths, and percents are all out of 100. So 0.05, that's my percent, times 240, which is my total amount. And when I do that in my calculator, I get 12. Well, maybe you don't have a calculator handy. So we're going to look at how you can do this problem as a ratio table, a tape diagram, and also cross multiplying. Then you can use whatever strategy works best for you. Let's move next to the cross multiplying. Now cross multiplying, I'm going to set up my 5 to be out of 100. So now I'm writing 5% as a fraction instead of as a decimal or a percent. And that's going to be equal to x, or whatever letter you would like, over 240. 240 is the total, and the top part, our numerator, is going to be the part. All right, so the 5% and whatever this amount is, those are on equal terms with each other, okay? 100 and 240, those are on equal terms with each other because they're both the total. So now I'm going to use my highlighter to cross multiply. I'm going to say 100 times x, and that's going to give me 100x. And 5 and 240 is going to give me 1,200. Now I have a one-step equation that I need to solve. I'm going to divide both sides by 100, and I get that x equals 12. And I can look at that real quick and see that my zeros cancel, and I'm left with 12. Okay? So that's really just looking at computation. So now we're going to look at how we can do this with a ratio table and a tape diagram. So I'm going to go to the ratio table next. I'm going to do this in pencil. I'm going to start with my 5 and put that out of 100. So here's my part and my whole. So maybe I'm going to label that on my ratio table, part to whole. And what I'm trying to figure out is what is the part out of 240. So I think I'm first, because I have to get from 100 to 240. So I think I'm first going to divide by 5. So let's see what happens when I do that. So divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is going to give me 20. All right, so I have 1 and 20. I think let's multiply by 2. So times 2 times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 20 times 2 is 40. Okay, so I'm trying to get to 240, and I see that I have a 40 here, and I have a 100 here. And I know that I can select certain columns to add to get my target amount. So actually, I think all I need to do now is take 100 and multiply it by 2. So I'm going to go back to my 100, my 5 out of 100, and I'm going to take that, multiply by 2. And whatever I do to my bottom number, I have to do to my top number. So that's being multiplied by 2 as well. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 100 times 2 is 200. Well, now I'm trying to get 240, and I see that I can get 240 by saying 40 plus 200 is 240. So therefore, 2 plus 10 is going to give me 12. So now I know that the target number is 12. I've confirmed it now in 3 ways. So now I'm going to try and confirm it in one more way. I'm going to use a tape diagram. So since I'm looking at percents here, and I'm looking at 5%, I think I'm first going to take my whole thing. So my whole tape diagram represents 100%. It also represents the full 240. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide it in half. And I'm going to take each half and divide that into 5 spaces so that I have 10 spaces. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm trying to make them as equal as I can. It's just kind of a rough estimate visually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So if this is 100% and I have 10 spots, then each of these is going to be worth 10%. So 10%, 10%. I'm going to write that into each one. All right, so now I have 10 spaces, and that takes my 100, divide it into 10 spaces. Now I have to take 240 and divide it into 10. And I know that that's some mental math, and 240 divided by 10 is going to be 24. So I'm going to write my 24 in. Now, this is asking me about 5%. Well, I know that if I just take one of my 10% and divide it in half, that gets me 5%. So I'm going to divide this in half, make this 5%, 5%. And since I'm dividing 10 in half, I'm just going to divide 24 in half. And therefore, I get 12. So that means that I confirm and I get the same answer, that 5% is 12. I can check my answer by adding 24, 24, 24, 24, 24, 24, 24, 24, 12, 12, and make sure that my total is 240. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. This next one says 7.5 is what percent of 60? So in this particular case, we don't have the percent. We have the two numbers. And if you should remember from class that when we don't have the percent, we're going to divide to get it. When we're given the percent, we're going to be multiplying to figure out what the parts are. Okay? So I'm going to write this as a number sentence, 7 5/10 divided by 60. When I put that into my calculator, so this is my part, and this is my whole. When I put that into my calculator, the calculator spits this out as its answer, 125 thousandths. Now, it's not a percent yet, it's a decimal. And I know that I have to move my decimal point 2 times. 1, 2. To get the percent form. So therefore, the percent is 12 and a half, 12.5, 12 5/10, however you want to say it, percent. All right, now let's look at cross multiplying. I actually really like cross multiplying for this particular problem. I like it because it helps set the problem up. So I'm going to say 7.5 out of 60 equals x over 100. Again, this is the part, and this is the whole. So I'm going to multiply my diagonals. 60 times x is 60x. 7.5 times 100 is going to be 750. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 60. 60 divided by 60 is 1. And 750 divided by 60, using my calculator, is going to be 12 and a half. And then I'm going to add my percent sign. What I like about this strategy is that I don't have to remember to move my decimal point over. It's automatically in this kind of whole number-ish percent form. So that's one of the reasons I like this one. It doesn't give me that extra step of having to move the decimal. All right, a ratio table. So I have 7.5, this is my part, this is my whole, out of 60. I'm trying to get from 60 to 100. So, what to do? Well, this is pretty simplified. So I think I'm going to start with the real basic. I'm going to multiply by 2. All right, when I multiply by 2, I see that I'm going to get 15. 7.5 times 2 is 15. 60 times 2 is 120. So that's nice. Those are some nice numbers to work with. But my target's 100. So I think now I'm going to divide by 3 to get to some nice whole numbers. All right, so 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. And 120 divided by 3 gives me 40. And, ooh, I see some columns that are going to work. Because I need to get 100, 60, and 40 give me 100. That works out nicely. So I just like to highlight around my columns so I know which ones are the ones that worked for me. Now, that doesn't mean this column was a waste. We needed this column to get this column, okay? We're just not using it for our final answer, but it wasn't a waste. It was necessary to get this one. All right, so 60 plus 40 is 100. 7.5 plus 5 is 12.5. All right, so we've confirmed our answer in 3 ways. Now, let's take a look at doing this one as a tape diagram. This is really kind of tricky to do this one as a tape diagram. So I think I'm going to start by dividing the sections into tens. So it's 60 is my total. I don't know what the percent is. That's what we're trying to find with this one. So I think I'm going to divide it in half. And then I'm going to divide that into thirds. And so, therefore, each of these sections, if the total is 60, each of these sections is worth 10. But I think I want to divide them in half again. So I think I'm going to make each section worth 5. Okay, so each of these is 5. And I should have 12 of them, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, and 12 times 5 is 60. Okay. So now, let's put them into, I think, some groups. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to make this one down here percent. So this is going to be 100%. All right, and I think I'm going to divide this into quarters. So let me take this in half and kind of put that in half and kind of put that in half. So each of these is going to be 25%. Okay, so I see that actually if I take 60 and divide it into 4 parts, 60 divided by 4 is going to be 15. So I think I'm gonna outline my 15s here. So I'm gonna put them in different colors. Okay, so this is 15. And then half of 15, so I need to get 7.5. So half of 15 is 7.5. And notice I have 4 sets of 15, just like there's 4 25% in 100. So if I need to get 7.5, then I'm going to take each of these 15s and cut them in half. And then that's going to be my 7.5. Okay, so, and if I cut each of these sets of 15 in half, then I'm going to take my 25 and I'm going to cut that in half. Okay, and so this has a value of 7.5. Each of these sections. All right, and so therefore half of 25 is 12.5. So 12.5%. Okay? So I've confirmed my answer in 4 ways. We have one more problem to look at. That's on the back. Okay. This one is saying 12 is 15% of what number? So I'm actually going to start with the cross multiplying on this one because I think that sets it up a little more nicely, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to put, so we have part over whole. I'm going to say 12 is the part because it's asking us what number. So x is going to be my whole. And it's saying it is 15% out of 100. So I'm going to do my cross multiplying. And I get 15x equals 1,200. Divide both sides by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1. 1,200 divided by 15 gets me x equals 80. All right, so I think now actually I want to go to my ratio table because that would be my second favorite for this particular problem. So I have my part here and my whole here. I know that we have 15 out of 100, and we have 12, and then we have something else. I don't know what it is. So I think the most logical thing because I'm trying to get from 15 to 12. So I think the most logical thing is going to be to divide by 5. So divide by 5. Because really with 15, I can only divide by 3 or 5, and 3 doesn't go into 100, at least not evenly. So I'm divide by 5, and that 15 divided by 5 is 3. 100 divided by 5 is 20. All right, well, I'm trying to get to 12. Well, that works nicely with 3. Just multiply now times 4. So whatever I do to the top, I'm going to do to the bottom. So 3 times 4 is 12. And therefore 20 times 4 is 40. No, 20 times 4 is not 40. No, Mrs. Six. 20 times 4 is going to be 80. There we go. Which confirms and matches with this answer. So we have our answer. Okay. Next, let's go to the number sentence. Let's take a look at that next. So this one, for a number sentence, I actually like to set up as an equation. Because we know that if we're given the percent, that means we're going to multiply. And we're multiplying by the whole number, except I don't know what the whole number is. So I'm going to say 15% as a decimal times x, because I don't know what that whole number is. But I know that 15% of x is 12. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to solve this one-step equation. I'm going to solve it by dividing both sides by 1500ths, which I know this looks really strange. 12 divided by 1500ths, but trust me, it's going to work. So now when I do that, I'm going to say x equals, put it into your calculator, 12 divided by 1500ths. And you're going to get x equals 80. Because this is saying how many times can I put this decimal of 1500ths into the whole number 12? And it's going to go in 80 times. Okay. I don't want to do a tape diagram with this problem. I can't get it to work out nicely. So I think I'm going to not do the tape diagram for this one. Maybe you can get it to work. What I've gotten so far is I've broken up into 12s, and then I had an 8 at the end. But that was because I knew what the answer was. So I haven't been able to make this one work. But bonus points to you if you can figure out how to use the tape diagram to demonstrate this problem. So bonus points or prize slips or something, some sort of prize. Don't know what it's going to be. To you if you can get the tape diagram to work. All right, do you have any questions? Hopefully this was a review. Any questions, go ahead and put them there. Okay? And have a wonderful evening. If you didn't get it all, go back and rewind, listen to it again.